Okay, welcome everybody to round 6 of F1 2017 TUF League. Today we bring you action from Monaco, so it proves to be a very exciting race. 17 guys in the lobby this evening. As we can see, we've got a couple of Division 2 drivers, which will be Henry, and we have Tekken as well. We have a new racer tonight, Antonio, somebody else who I know very well myself. He races in a couple of other leagues that I'm in. He's got a lot of pace, so it should be a very interesting day before him this evening. Obviously Monaco proving to be one of the more difficult circuits on the whole calendar, so fingers crossed. We will hope for a nice clean race this evening. Obviously we've had a few problems so far in the championship due to issues with the game, so we've had the latest update out today, 1.10, and fingers crossed we shouldn't have too many problems. So nobody is yet to set a time. We're just on board with Dobby at the moment, who had a bit of an unfortunate race last time out in Spain. I think he had a few connection issues, so it looks like it's been fixed for this evening. It doesn't look like there's any lag, fortunately. It will be just myself this evening on the commentary. Unfortunately Jake is unavailable due to illness, so we wish him all the best, and hopefully we'll see him again for the next race, which I'm sure we will. We've had the first lap from Mr. Ice Cold Andy, which is a 1:10.7, which is a very strong time. And then, as I say that, James, last race's winner, I believe, has just gone quickest with a 1:10.6. I can imagine probably towards the end of qualifying, if a couple of people can get below 1:10.5, then that will probably guarantee them pole, I would say. So we shall see how people fare towards the end of qualifying, as we will go on board with Carlsberry, who is just completing a lap, I believe. So let's see where that puts him. Obviously you want to stay nice and narrow to the wall on the right hand side just there. Carl goes third of 1:11.3. Good solid banker lap for him. I'm sure he'll be quite happy with that. We've got a yellow in sector 2. Yep, Carl, last season's champion. Very strong driver. Nearly pulled out a fantastic strategy in Spain in the last race. If the rain come half a lap later, I believe Carl would have won that race, as the other guys obviously pitted onto intermediate tyres, and Carl got caught in going into sector 3 in Spain, which lost him the race win. But he's still got a podium, so he's going to be very happy with that as it brings him into Monaco. We will change and go to an onboard camera with Carl as he now approaches the tight chicane. Very easy to cut the corner here and invalidate a lap, and also we would expect a lot of penalties and a lot of clips on the wall during the race. I would expect the unexpected tonight, so hopefully you will all enjoy the race this evening and keep me company along the way. A couple of guys missing tonight. From as we can see, we've actually only got 14 of the normal grid. We've obviously got Corey missing, who is the league owner. Unfortunately he's unavailable due to work, I would believe. And then, yeah, like I said, we have a newcomer and a couple of Division 2 drivers, so it's a good opportunity tonight for some people to get some points on the board. I think the key to Monaco is basically, yes, qualifying is probably the most important one on the calendar, but given the fact it's on a simulation game, I would probably expect a lot of retirements, a lot of crashes, a lot of losses of wings as we progress through. So I think the key is, if you can have a solid race with no incidents or anything like that, then you should score pretty well. If you can get to the end of the race, I'm sure you'll score pretty well as well. So it's going to be pretty cool to see. So we're going to go on board with Antonio, who has put in the time. We've gone P5 at the moment, splitting Fuzzer and Pubster Randy, which is very well done on his first qualifying in the TUF. With 5.5 minutes remaining now, we have 11 guys who have set times, 6 people not to do so just yet. So we're going to go on board with somebody who I believe is on a flying lap, and that was a complete lie, I apologise. We'll go on board with NR, as we know NR is going to be on a lap. I'm receiving word that it's supposed to be a dry qualifying and race, so we shouldn't see any rain, which is a good thing for the drivers, but possibly a bad thing for some spectators, as that would really improve the the risk element in the race, which is obviously going to affect a lot of the drivers. You might see a few guys here which might not necessarily finish particularly well compared to some others, might finish a bit higher up than expected, so fingers crossed that we see a few upsets this evening. Always good to see. I believe as the league standings go, it's fairly close at the top. Obviously James has come in and had a fantastic start to his career in TUF. He's pushed himself up there with a couple of race wins. There's just a bit of a corner cut there from Menard. I don't know whether that's jeopardised his lap at all, but it's been quite a scruffy lap so far. Will we see any improvements? Will anybody get a surprise pole in the last minute? Another yellow in sector 2. Well, with 17 drivers tonight, hopefully the racers have a bit of better luck considering how it's been in the last few. Unfortunately, we've had quite a few DNFs. As we see Tekken from Division 2 approaching the chicane, takes it nicely. Hard down on the throttle, approaching the swimming pool section. This left-hand turn here is one that can really catch you up, but he takes it very nicely. As he comes into the swimming pool section, wants to get a nice narrow line through, yeah. And you want to brake early and get as close to that inside wall as possible, yeah, takes it lovely as well. Bit of a wobble as he comes onto the final corner, hammer down, stays nice and close to the right-hand wall to minimise the length and just gain those few thousandths of a second, which could make all the difference. So it puts him in P8 as it stands with a 1:12.3. So we're still waiting to see times from Lennon, Chris Logan, Shone, Funky and Henry, who is tonight's host. Chris Logan again, another Division 2 driver. Sorry to cut you short there, Chris. Representing Ferrari tonight, he's going to be loving that. Chris just about to complete his first lap, and that puts him in P12 of 1:13.1. Yeah, Funky's come through with a 1:14.8, so just a bit of a banker lap, I believe. I'm sure he'll go much quicker in his next one. He has Chris behind him, so hopefully they don't get too close. It doesn't jeopardise either of their laps. And Chris has had a bit of a hit on the wall there, and so has Funky. Yeah, so I think they've both cracked under a bit of pressure there from one another. Chris might have been thinking about Funky being in front of him, as he can retire from the session. Yeah, it looks like he's going to. Yeah, there we go. As we're on board with Pagani now, bit of a kiss on the outside wall there. Takes a nice line through Raskas and into the final corner. Takes it nicely, a bit of adjustment as we see James improve by a tenth to go to a 1:10.5 and Andy as well to a 1:10.6. Just slight improvements from the guys there. Bit of a kiss from Pagani, improves and goes to 11th of 1:12.7. Turn 1 should be very interesting tonight. As Funky retires from the session, we're going to start from the back, and Pagani very much does the same in emphatic style. So we have Whiskey in the pits, we've got George Alice just coming over the line. He's currently in 13th with a 1:13 flat, and he's hit the wall and lost some front wings, so it's going to really jeopardise his time. Clips the wall again. It's going to make things very difficult for him as he goes through and tries to improve on his time with 45 seconds left. He's not going to be able to get another lap in, and even if he does, he's going to have to do it with half a front wing. I would expect maybe. He's holding it pretty well together so far. Go on board with Fuzzer. Just starting a flying lap. 20 seconds to go. I'm sure he's going to want to jump up onto the front row. Got 10 seconds left of the session. Will Trizzy be able to get over the line to start his flying lap? No, he's retired from the session. But P5, I don't think it'll be too much danger in anybody getting above him. I don't think he'll start anything lower than where he is. Possibly lose out on one position. as we go through the wonderful tunnel section of Monaco. Into the chicane. Oh, and he's lost his tyre. Not good for Fuzzer. Although he's sitting in P4 at the moment, I don't think he'll be too disheartened with that. Do we have anybody on a final flying lap? I don't believe we do, unless James Ashmad is... No, he's pulled out as well. So that concludes qualifying by the looks of things. Just a brief rundown. So we've got James taken pole, Mr. Ice Cold Andy, who's had a bit of a wobbly season so far, but he's taken the other place on the front row, with Carlsberry and Fuzzer in 3rd and 4th just behind. Dobby and Pubster Andy in 5th and 6th place so far. Trizzy Antonio in 7th, which is a solid debut for him. Henry in P8, George Alice in 9th. We've got Tekken in P10. And then towards the bottom half of the grid we have NR in 11th place, Bogani in 12th, and hopefully has some more luck this evening. Whiskey in P13, Chris Logan in 14th, and then Funky setting the last time of a 1:14.8 in P15. And then we have Lennon and Shone, who did not unfortunately set times, so potentially their idea is going to be start from the back and let all of the incidents unfold right in front of them. As the guys get through their final preparations, as we've got a minute and a bit left to the session. I think we're just waiting for James to retire his car. Yeah, there was a couple of guys saying that there was a little bit of traffic on the grid on their qualifying runs, which might have jeopardised their times ever so slightly. But between pole and P7 we're separated by about a second, and then between the rest of them we're looking about a second again between 8th and 14th, and Funky obviously didn't have the best of runs on his qualifying. So a tip for the race win this evening would probably be James would be one to watch. We've seen a very quick driver, but how will he handle Monaco? That is the question. So I think you've got to look at people like Mr. Ice Cold Andy. I believe last year, I think Mr. Ice Cold Andy won the race from Pubster Andy, but the two of them had an absolutely incredible battle. I do highly recommend going back to watch that one through. Mr. Ice Cold Andy was representing the manor. I think he just started in the league, and Pubster Andy in his red Ferrari had a fantastic race. There was some brilliant moves going side by side through the swimming pool section without any contact. One of the most enjoyable races to watch for a very long time. Yeah, that was 100% race, and then Carlsberry, I believe, won the 50%. So yeah, I think a couple of guys up the front. As long as, like I said, as long as people can keep it out the wall this evening and not lose too many front wings, have to make too many stops. I imagine we'll see a safety car or 7, depends on how the game decides to behave this evening. As we've got 5 seconds until go time. So to all the drivers listening and to everybody watching, hope you enjoy it. Good luck. And I'm sure we're going to be in for a very interesting race. So we'll just wait for the drivers to select their strategies. Obviously a one stop is very easy in Monaco from the ultra softs to the super softs. I don't think we'll see anybody go onto the softs. I think a couple of guys in Division 2 did that and realised that they lost so much time due to it. Just mainly on what there is of straights around Monaco. Hopefully we get plenty of finishes this evening. And with 10 seconds to go, the drivers will be preparing themselves. And it is showtime. So good luck to the guys as we see 5 lights. And they're away. Good solid start there from James. Good start from Carl as well by the looks of things. He's going to have a look up the inside in turn 1. Yeah, it holds just from Fuzzer just there. And we've seen a couple of crashes towards the back. Too many issues, a little bit of debris coming off here. Oh, there's been a bit of an incident with one of the Renaults. I believe that might be Pagani. have a yellow in sector 2 as well, and we've got a McLaren, I believe, that parked himself into the wall just there. As we see him go through the Grand Hotel chicane, the slowest corner on the grid. Yeah, I believe it was NR. Yeah, NR right at the back has obviously had a bit of an issue. Yeah, and we've got James currently leading. Mr. Ice Cold Andy in second. Fazza's got past Carl into P3. Dobby's had a good start into P5. Treasy's made up a place as well into P6. Solid start of George Alice just behind him. Pubster Randy's had a bit of a poor start. And in P8 as he goes for the swimming pool section. Now will we see anybody pitting on lap 1? As James sets fast as lap. Yeah, we've got Trizzy and Pubster Randy have gone into the pits, as well as Whisket as well. So I think that's where we saw the debris. We've got a yellow in sector 1 as well. James and Andy having a good solid start to the race. And what has happened to Carl? Carl has dropped down 5 places into P8. Now are we looking at wing damage? As we see a virtual safety car hit us. Yep, Carl has no front right wing. So he needs to go in and get that changed at the end of this lap as soon as possible. Pagani's had a fantastic start from 12th up into P7. As we said earlier on, we've lost a lot of guys all the way down to the bottom of the order that have had to pit due to wing damaging from loss of debris on the car. So it's benefited the people likes of Lennon and Shone, who started from the back. Now we're here, so it had to be done. And I believe we're back underway. We're going board with Pagani for a second as he goes through the chicane. Is Carl going to be? Yeah, Carl's got a little bit of a train coming up behind him, so this is good news for Pagani at the moment. He's going to be looking almost as he clips the wall there. So he's going to be banking on Carl holding him up as much as possible. As race control have enabled DRS. We're going to see Pagani dive into the pits. No, we're not, so we didn't lose any wing damage. Any of his wings, sorry. We've got Henry and Carlsberry into the pits as well. Okay, so as it stands, the top 3 seem to be running away with it a little bit at the moment as Lennon retires from the session. What has happened? Yeah, he's lost it on turn 1. Really unfortunate for Lennon. He's not had a good run of form so far in the championship. I saw him speaking yesterday about his plans for the race, and he just said he just wants to finish. So unfortunately it's not going to happen for him this evening. James has pulled out a 1.5 second lead to Mr. Ice Cold Andy already, so he's looking very strong. It's just whether he's got the consistency. A bit of a touch on the wall there. I think it's important for the guys to remember that it is very difficult to overtake in Monaco. So as long as you can hold your position and not make any mistakes, you should be okay, and just close off what little overtaking places there are on the circuit. As James sets the fastest lap of the race of a 1:13.3. Nobody really that close together at the moment, unfortunately. We've got Pubster Randy, who is closing on the back of Trizzy Antonio, who's representing Force India this evening. We'll go on board with Pubster Randy because he looks like he's the closest person on the field to making a potential overtake. As well as Chris Logan, actually. Chris Logan's only 4 tenths behind Pagani in P7. Pubstar very strong around Monaco. So he'll be hoping for some good points this evening. Obviously had a bit of a wobbly start to the race. As Trizzy just clips the wall there, so he's going to lose a tenth or 2. To Pub, who has closed the gap down to literally half a second now as they approach the chicane. Slight corner cut from Pubstar there, maybe. Yeah, race control. We've had Shone's got a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That's a new addition, I believe, which is great to see. Not Shone getting penalties, but the fact that we can see them as they happen. So we've got Pagani into the pits. Early pit stop. Yeah, I think he might have been carrying a bit of wing damage from the clip on that wall in the left-hander leading up to the swimming pool section. So we're going to go back on board with the leaders. James taking a very nice line there through the tunnel section, squeezing it through. We've got Trizzy Antonio who's closed the gap right up on Funky Cobra. Almost touching the back of him. It's good news for Pub Star because it's going to may leave an opening somewhere, depending on the patience. Yeah, Funky lets them both go past, so he must be carrying some form of damage. As you can leave these two just scrap it out. Trizzy Antonio gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Like I said to you, it's very, very easy to do around Monaco. So if anybody can complete this race without penalties, I'll be extremely impressed. Is Pub Star close enough to... No, he's not close enough. I think what he's going to look to do is try and close the gap as much as possible or in sector 3, and then try and have a look down the start finish straight. I think that is pretty much the only tactic you can have in Monaco, unless you really, really are brave enough to be looking into a corner and seize on the smallest gap, the smallest opportunity. Yeah, not too much happening here at the moment, so we're going to have a flick through the field, see what's going on. So we have James doing P1 has pretty much doubled his gap to Andy now to 2.8 seconds. As we see Andy come to the back of the picture there. Fuzzer not too far behind. And then Dobby about 4 seconds back from those as well. So we've got some nice clean air to work with at the moment, Dobby. And I'm sure if we can just keep the consistency, then he should be looking at a nice points finish and possibly catch up. What has happened there? Is that Fuzzer? Yeah, that's Fuzzer. Fuzzer's made an awful mistake. Going into the Grand Hotel hairpin as Pagani gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting and then retired from the session. So Pagani in sector 3 again has had some awful luck on the game. We're sorry to see that, Pagani. Yes, we see Dobby, who's right on the back now of Fuzzer. Just looking a bit further down the order, Trizzy Antonio's pulled out about a second gap now to Pubster Randy, which is good news. Yeah, as we see Pagani losing it in the swimming pool section by the looks of things. He must have cut the corner, which is very easy to do, and then maybe hit the curb and just lost it, unfortunately. So we'll see what else we can through the field. Chris Logan's had a good solid start so far, up 8 places into P6. We've shown less than a second behind, who's made up 10 places into P7. So he's had an excellent start. I think there may have been an incident somewhere down the field involving Lennon, which is the reason why he retired. I'm not sure whether he just lost it or whether there was an actual issue there. I think it was an incident between Lennon and Funky, which maybe would explain why Funky did have wing damage and was letting Trizzy and Pubstar past. Okay, so Shona now has Trizzy Antonio for company. He's had a nice solid start. Unfortunately had to pit very early, but now he's right on the back of Shone, so we're going to stay on board with this little three-way battle for the time being, and we will spectate Shone so we get the best view of what's going on in front and behind. Carl's buried down in 14th at the moment, just under half a second away from NR, so he's going to be looking to make a pass. We're tuning in with that, Carl, but we have a three-way battle going on here for P6. As NR gets a 3-second penalty. Oh, I think there was a bit of contact there between Trizzy and Shone. Shone touches the wall. I think Trizzy slowed down to let him back past again, which is good sportsmanship, and just randomly jumped into the air, so I'm not too sure what happened there. If he went over an invisible ramp, or he just worked the hydraulics nicely. As Schoen has now let Trizzy past. Interesting tactic from Schoen there. I think he must be realising that Trizzy is quicker, and he doesn't want to risk the overtake from Trizzy causing any damage to him after that little knock there. So very sensible. Oh, and Schoen has had a horrible wobble into Casino there, driving very, very slowly. He's just letting the guys past him. Yeah, sensible driving from Schoen. Very easy to do, just cutting in ever so slightly too early, going into the Casino corner there. So a lot of action so far, as we now got, I believe is that Henry that's on the back of Schoen? Well, it was on the back of Schoen, but Schoen's letting everyone past him at the moment. He must be carrying some pretty bad damage. Yeah, he has absolutely no wing whatsoever. So not beneficial for Schoen whatsoever, as we see NR currently driving backwards, which I don't recommend around Monaco. And Schoen clips the ball there. Funky's got a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Again, like we said, oh, and NR's hit the wall. Is he going to retire? See a bit of debris skid across the floor there. Yeah, we saw NR being a bit wobbly during qualifying as well, so I would be, at this stage, with the greatest respect, I would be very surprised if NR does finish the race. So we can go on board with Carlsberry. Yeah, who's profited from that incident there, because he was on the back of NR. I don't know whether there was any sort of collision between the two of them, or whether NR just cracked under a little bit of pressure, but we know Carl's quick. He's going to be on the back of Henry very soon, I would imagine. So we can have some nice battles on. We've got Pubster Randy, who is literally on the back of Tekken, going to be looking up the inside. As they come down the hill, is he going to take a late dive in? Is there contact? Yeah, there's contact. And Tekken lets him through. A bit forceful there from Pubster Randy. I think he obviously saw an opening, but I think to execute it in that manner was probably a bit over the top, but that's not for me to decide. In other news, Sunderland have sacked Simon Grayson, so which is not surprising considering they've not won a league game at home in 2017. Is that as useful as Arsenal's defence at the moment, which is not good. Anyway, back to the race. So we're going to go back on board with Carl, who has closed up more than half a second to Henry. So he's now just finds himself just 0.7 of a second away. We expect a strong race from Carl today. Just looking towards the leaders there, we've got James who's got a 5.2 second gap. We've got a yellow in sector 3, and NR has retired from the session, so commentator's curse maybe. But yeah, I didn't believe that NR would maybe get too much further, just from the luck he was having. Not saying he hasn't got the ability, because we know he's a very fast driver, but sometimes people can just crack under a little bit of pressure on the street circuits, especially here at Monaco. Anything can happen. Okay, so by the looks of things, yeah, I think Chris Logan may have just let Trizzy past. He's obviously done the same thing as shown there and realised that Trizzy is the quicker driver and doesn't want to risk any sort of overtakes causing any problems or damage. So Trizzy finds himself into P6 after his one pit stop already. So a good solid debut from the Jamaican man. As Pubster Andy sets the fastest lap of the race of a 1:13.1, I believe. Nice solid time. As we are a third of the way through the race, we've had 3 retirements so far. Hopefully we won't see too many more. We want to see at least 10 finishes to optimise points. So Trizzy is 14 seconds away from George Ellis, who is 13 seconds behind Dobby. So Trizzy's got some work to do. Like we said, anything can happen. It could be a possible safety car, or any incidents up ahead which could close the gap down. So Trizzy's just got to be patient here and just setting himself into the race. I'm going to go, yeah, Carl's got past Henry as well, which unfortunately we missed. And Trizzy gets a 3-second time penalty for the second time, I believe. Multiple warnings, so it'll be another corner cut there, and Wiskett gets a 5-second stop-go penalty for speeding into the pit lane. So how many stops have people made? So Bubs, Randy and Funky have made 2 stops each. And then we've got Trizzy, Carl, Henry, Tekken and Shone all with 1 stop. And we have the top 5 all on ultra softs, as well as Funky down in P14. A couple of guys gone to softs, which I find very strange. Obviously we'll get them to the end, but we saw from the Division 2 race the other day that the softs around Monaco is not the best idea. You need that quicker tyre, obviously the more grip as well. So I'm very surprised with that. And Mr. Wisecourt, Andy does it as well. So he pits from P2, he's come in, and he's got a 5-second stop-go penalty for corner cutting. That's going to really annoy him. So we're going to go back on board with the leader. We're doing on board with James. Obviously got exceptional pace around Monaco, using no ABS. Very close to the inside wall there. As he accelerates down, this is the left-hander. Yeah, I think that's one of the most difficult corners on the track, that. Because although it wouldn't be the obvious one, it is one that can catch out so many people, and I think we've lost 1 or 2 to that corner this evening. James using no ABS as well, which is very impressive in itself. Could potentially be a no assist driver, and to do that around Monaco with consistency is very impressive. Obviously that is a guess. So we'll stay on board with James whilst the field aren't too close to one another. Yeah, I think James might be a no assist driver. Yeah, really important to clip that inside curb there on the Grand Hotel hairpin, because if you don't, it's going to take you so much longer to get around the corner. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Wisecourt has just pitted again for super softs. Okay, so Andy's really had a lot of problems there, so unless he's had some form of wing damage maybe on his outlap, or whether he just realised he was on the wrong tyre, but he now finds himself all the way down in P9, 2 seconds behind Henry, who Carl was pulled away from ever so slightly. So we're going to go down the order and find Wiskett, who is about a second away from Tekken. So just thinking as well, so Funky's down in last place at the moment, down in P14. He's approaching the swimming pool section, and then we've got James. Where is James on track? Okay, James has just made a stop, so there's no risk of anyone getting lapped anytime soon. I just thought that is another thing that could potentially hold people up, depending on how quickly the being lapped cars respond. And we've got Henry, who has closed the gap down on, is that Carl? Yeah, Carl. Where's Carl going? Into the pits. Okay, so Carl's lost half his front wing again, so he's had to put himself back into the pits for a fresh set of super softs. The wing changes take quite a long time now, so infuriating. And I'm speaking from experience here, considering I lose about 18 of them every single race. So Carl finds himself in the last place of the points, down in P10. Now where is Tekken on track? Okay, so Tekken's just going to start finish straight, and Carl has just exited it. So he finds himself, was it about, yeah, about 12-13 seconds, yeah, 13 seconds ahead from Tekken. Okay, so unsure what's happened, But Trizzy Antonio seems to have made up a hell of a lot of time. Who is apparently on the softs, although it's displaying ultra soft tyres, so fantastic consistency from Codemasters there as usual. Oh, okay, so Trizzy is coming up to Funky Cobra, who's going to be a lap car. Hopefully Funky does play ball and move out of the way and doesn't cause any problems for Trizzy. Yeah, nicely done Funky, well done. There's a little battle going on behind. Okay. So we're going to broadcast, and then we have Chris, Logan, Henry and Andy all scrapping for P6. Chris holding himself up there in the middle of the points. Oh, well, Henry's going to have a look up the inside then. So this will be interesting because Chris, as we know, as Whiskey gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, which I would imagine would be another corner cut. Is Andy going to have a look up the inside, going into the chicane side by side? Henry gets a penalty. Oh, there's some debris on the track, I think. And he may have lost some more of his front wing. Is he going to have to pit again? Okay, Henry slowed right down. What's happened? Oh, okay, so Henry's obviously realised that he may have been the cause for Andy having to... Yeah, and he's come to the pits again as Henry stays out. So, good sportsmanship from Henry there. Obviously realised he may have been the cause for Andy losing part of his front wing there, so he's let him back past. Good driving there, mate, well done. Well, good sportsmanship, not good driving, I apologise. So Chris Logan now is going to be absolutely licking his big Welsh lips, as he had two very quick drivers behind him who collided into the swimming pool section, sorry, into the chicane before the swimming pool section, and has now pulled out about a 2.6 second gap to Henry, and obviously Andy is now out of the frame, which puts Carl up into P9. As we've got Shown and Tekken very close down the bottom. Okay, so there's three cars here. I believe that's, yeah, Whiskey, Tekken and Shown all battling for P11. So we will go on, we'll spectate with Tekken so we can see the driver in front and behind. Good to see not too many more DNFs as we approach halfway into the race. Only 3 so far. As Henry's closed the gap to Chris by over a second. So I'm not too sure, has Chris pitted yet? Let's have a look. No, Chris hasn't pitted yet, so he's on older tyres. Henry has made one stop, so I would hope that Chris will be pitting relatively soon, although he would have started on fresh super soft tyres, I believe, as he didn't qualify inside the top 10. So as position changes go so far in the race, Chris Logan has had the most overtakes so far, has profited the most from the mistakes in front of him, although he hasn't pitted yet, as George Alice comes in to the pits for the first time, I believe. Is that a stop-go penalty? It looks like it. Okay, puts on another set of super soft tyres. And where is he going to join? So that puts Trizzy up into P4. George Alice drops down to 6 as it stands. Yeah, George Alice down in 7th. So not a bad position to be in as it stands. As all, sorry, I must have seen Fuzzer must have lagged out there unfortunately as he rejoins. Finds himself in P2 at the moment. Now, is there anybody other than Chris that have not stopped as of yet? No, just Chris. And Andy sets the fastest lap of the race for 1:13 flat. Okay, fantastic. Right, we're going to go on board with Chris, who has let Henry pass by the looks of things. Sensible move from Chris there, as he's not wanting to hold anybody up. He's aware that obviously he's on older tyres than Henry, and Henry was putting him under a lot of pressure. As he approaches the section now, gets very, very wide, cuts the corner. 3-second time penalty for Chris. Is Chris going to dive into the pits yet? No, he's not. So he's going to start for another couple more. I think maybe lap 23 for Chris, and he'll go on to the ultra softs. I think that might be the most feasible option for him. Bit of a touch on the wall there by the looks of things. Let's go on board with Carl. Yeah, Carl finds himself just under 6 seconds behind George Ellis. Lost 5 places so far from his starting position of 3rd. So he's pushing, he's got his fuel light on at the moment. Okay, so he is running in standard and he's got minus 1.05 laps of fuel, so Carl's going to need to do some serious fuel saving now. I know he's going to want to be pushing, but he can't afford to not finish the race because he's run out of fuel. Lovely helicopter shot there of Carl hitting the ball. Okay, so let's go and find James. So James finds himself 9.8 seconds in front of Fuzzer, so he's got a comfortable gap. Flawless performance so far. I haven't even seen him flush up the penalty yet. So he looks set for the win. Although he is approaching a lapped car. I believe that is Whiskit. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's Whiskit. It's a good guess, wasn't it? And where is Fuzzer? So Fuzzer is coming in to just on turn 1. So he's maintaining the gap. He's got a just over 6.5 second gap to Dobby, who's in 3rd. Drizzy Antonio having a fantastic race so far. Finds himself in P4 on his debut in Division 1, which is good going. And nothing too much to shout about at the moment. We see some battling towards the bottom between Tekken, Pubster Randy and Shone. Getting very close there as they come into the chicane. Oh, Shone quite late on the brakes there. Pubster Randy gets another time penalty. We've got a few guys within just a few seconds of one another, but I think unless the field closes up a little bit more, we're not going to see too much in the way of position changes due to penalties from what I've seen. Oh, as Pub has a bit of a wobble. He's hitting the wall. Okay, so Tekken dives into the pits as Pubster Randy had a massive wobble then. But he's gained DRS from Tekken. You lucky, lucky man. Okay, so Shone's going to be looking to put the pressure on. We're going on board with Shone, which is something we haven't done so far in the race. On the super soft tyres. Started down in P17, at the back of the order. Obviously going to be very mindful. Okay, Shone's just let Fuzzer past him. I wonder why he was going slow. Yeah, he's going to be mindful of Casino Square because of the unfortunate incident earlier on. He has been nicely clipping the curb as he enters the tunnel section, so hopefully he doesn't lose too much time to Pubster Randy here for letting Fuzzer through. Obviously he had to do it, but we know Pubster Randy is quick. But will pride come into things? Will he want to let Fuzzer past him? Pubster Randy not having the best championship so far. Okay, a bit of an issue with Pubster Randy's car by this thing, just over revving. Trizzy Antonio gets another penalty. Okay, we can't watch Bub because his car's having a bit of a panic attack by the looks of things. So we'll go to broadcast with Dobby. There's not really too many cars close to one another at the moment. I think the closest to the driver ahead is George Alice, who is 3 seconds behind Henry. I know we've got Pubs Randy, who's 2 seconds behind Wisket. Has Pubs Randy let Fuzzer back past him yet? Okay, so we got my good friend Michael watching the stream, cheering on Mr. Ice Cold Andy. I think they had a romantic relationship over pro clubs on one, possibly 2 occasions. Yeah, we've got Pubs Randy putting the pressure onto Wisket now. He's bringing the time down sector by sector. Other than that, the top 5 are all really spread out, as George Alice has closed the gap up on Henry by about a second when we last checked in. Yeah, really closed up. Now Fuzzer's still behind him at the moment. As shown, has really dropped off. Yeah, Pubs Randy won't like the fact that Fuzzer's behind him, and if Fuzzer gets too close, he's going to have to let him past. Yeah, quite surprised to see the gap so big in Monaco. Obviously, I know the one we're watching isn't, but considering it's like 10, 16, 14, 13, 28, there's a lot of large gaps on track, which I suppose to the drivers is a pretty good thing, because it might not really put them in too much jeopardy of losing a position. But from a spectator's point of view, it's not been too beneficial. Right, so we see Fuzzer now approaching the back of Pubs Randy, yeah, who has slowed down and let him past, but Shone has lost a lot of time since then. So he finds himself 7 seconds now behind 6. I lied, 5.7. So Shone has suddenly jumped into a jet by the looks of things. So we're going to go on board with Mr. Ice Cold Andy, because he is very close to the back of Carl as it stands. Okay, so interesting. With Fuzzer approaching the back of Wisket, Wisket's pulled over and Pubs Randy's capitalised on that and he's overtaken Wisket. And now is Pubs Randy going to try and race Fuzzer? Let's hope not. Yeah, Andy finds himself just out of DRS range from Carl as it stands, just over 1 second. Now, will we see any incidents before the end of the race? I'm very impressed. We've only lost 3 drivers so far, and I think 2 were from individual mistakes, and I believe 1 may have been a bit of contact, which unfortunately does happen in Monaco, but it can be avoided if everybody's on the same wavelength. As Carl has responded to Andy closing him up by pulling away by a couple of attempts, as Andy clips the wall ever so slightly. Now, considering Andy's had the luck that he's had so far in this race, he's still in P6. Now we have a yellow in sector 2. Now, what has happened here? Nothing too major, as we've got Funky's got a 5-second stop-go penalty for... Okay, Funky's now retired from the session. I think he found himself at the back and he got himself a 5-second stop-go as well, speeding into the pit lane. Not too sure what the yellows were for in Sector 2. We'll see if anyone comes into the pits. Could have been funky, actually, on that note. My brain deceiving me as per normal. Yes, we're going to go back to Mr. Ice Cold Andy, who is the closest to overtaking somebody on track, which is to Carl, which is about a second's gap. So Carl, just maintaining at the moment, finds himself in P5. And I am now apparently someone's favourite YouTuber. So whoever you are, thank you, and welcome, Mr. Goykart. And Trizzy sets the fastest lap of the race of a 1:12.4, significantly quicker than what we have been seeing so far. Obviously the grip will be rising towards the end of the race. So as we come into the final 9 laps or 10 laps of the race, we have James in P1, we've got Fuzzer in 2nd, we've got Dobby in 3rd, George Alice is in 4th, so a good race from George so far. We've got Carlsberry in 5th, as we can see, with Mr. Ice Cold Andy just behind him in P6. Trizzy down in P7, has obviously had to make another pit stop, but still a solid debut so far from him. We've got Henry down in 8th with Chris Logan behind in P9. Pubster Andy down in P10 with Shone behind in 11th place. And then the final 2 runners on the day is Tekken in 12th and Whiskit in P13. The retirements that we've had so far are Funky Cobra, as we just saw, NR, who had a bit of an unfortunate race by the looks of things. We've had Pagani, who's had absolutely no luck so far. I think it might have just been an individual mistake from Pagani, and Lennon, who I believe had a bit of contact with Funky earlier on in the race, which has caused him to hit into turn 1. Yeah, Funky just sent a message through saying he missed the braking point, so I think he might have nudged Lennon into the wall. I mean, by nudged, I mean maybe ploughed through the back of him. Either or, I suppose. Okay, so Carl was caught up to the back of George Alice as well, so I'm wondering what's happened there to George Alice, because the gap didn't seem that far. Okay, George Alice is only rocking half a wing at the moment, so he's obviously had a bit of an incident there somewhere, as we've got Whiskey of another time penalty. Obviously we'll see all of these towards the end of the race. So this is good and bad news for Carl, because it gives him a potential 4th place, depending on how he reacts to George Alice's wing damage. I don't know if we'll see George pit or not. That's the interesting thing. This might not even be. There it is. Oh, okay. Sorry, me being thick. Okay, so we have a battle on our hands with 8 laps to go in the race. This is exactly what we wanted to see, because I was running out of things to talk about. Okay, Trizzy Antonio's pitted again. Really unfortunate for Trizzy. What's happened there? Is it going to be another wing change? I do want to look, but equally I don't, because all of these guys are literally kissing each other's rears, or gearboxes if you're going to talk in F1 terms. Okay, George Alice is really struggling here, which is allowed Andy to get onto the back of Carl, but equally Carl to get on the back of George Alice. Now, if I was Carl in this situation, I would be thinking to myself, well, if I can get past George Alice, I'm just going to hope that Andy has more problems than I did getting past, and then pull away into the distance and nurse home at P4. I think Carl might be sitting on a couple of penalties. I'm not too sure if George Alice is or not, but I know Andy's got a few as well. So, okay, Carl's had a look there, going to swimming pool section as we approach Rascasse now. George Alice's turning circle is going to be significantly increased compared to the other guys. Now Carl has got DRS. Is he going to be able to have a look? We're not too sure, because we're looking at the back of his car at the moment. Oh, he's gone to have a look. Bit of a corner cut there from Carl. He's obviously pushing. Last year's champion. So we know we've got the capabilities of a good racer here. I think it's only a matter of time before Carl takes a risk. Is it going to be here? No, it's not. Yeah, George's really struggling there. Okay, Carlsberry's got another 3-second time penalty there for cutting the corner. Don't let it affect your car. You don't know what those around you are sporting as well, mate. Okay, Andy's dropped off ever so slightly, just by a couple of attempts. Carl really putting the pressure on George Ellis now. I must say George Ellis is driving very well with half a front wing, especially around Monaco, because the slightest clip is going to jeopardise him even more now. Sean comes into the pits, or comes out of the pits, should I say, in his lovely banana. Now, will we see any more drama unfold before the end of this race? Just so everybody understands, we're still on board with Carl just because it gives us the best perspective of what's happening in front and behind. It's very, very close to the back of George Ellis there. Hopefully Carl doesn't cut the corner too much. No, he's been much more safer this time. Touches the back of George Ellis there. Yeah, George really holding these guys up. Okay, Carl looks like he's got a good run here, but not as much of a good run as he would have liked, unfortunately. Carl's fuel light is flickering on and off. Oh, he's hit the wall. Oh no, and now Andy's hit the back of Carl. What has happened? So we do see drama. Yeah, Carl was sporting next to no front wing now, but he's going to soldier on. Okay. So Mr. Ice Cold Andy's had a bit of a gift of P5 there. And George Ellis has been relieved of some pressure as Andy takes turn one rather skeptically. That's a tough word to say, I shouldn't try and do that again. Oh, some more debris coming off of Carl's car again, side by side through Casino. They're touching the back of one another. Carl inserting himself into Mr. Ice Cold Andy's gearbox, and again, another time penalty for Carl. Carl, keep your head, mate. And Sean is going to be thinking, why couldn't this be happening earlier on in the race? George Ellis has now pulled out a 3.5 second gap. I believe, oh, Carl, very late. Has he got another penalty there? No, probably just a warning. Let's have a look at Mr. Ice Cold Andy. Did he lose any front wing? Oh, yes. Oh, God. He has no front wing as Carl gets back past. So, that's come out of nowhere. Is Andy going to pit? Yes. Okay, so Mr. Ice Cold Andy comes into the pit. So Carl now has a rather large gap. No, he doesn't. He has Henry 2 seconds behind. I was looking at the person behind them. But Henry has shown in front as Chris Logan gets a 3 second time penalty. So Sean's going to have to let Henry pass in just a second. And Henry's going to be wondering what on earth has been going on in front of him. As Sean lets him pass. Very well done there from Sean. Taken with a penalty there. Multiple warnings. Naughty, naughty. Bit of a wobble there from Henry. He's really closed the gap now. Down to just over half a second. So we would expect Henry to be challenging now, as we've got Chris Logan on the back of Pubster Andy as well. And we're just going to see how this unfolds, just going through his difficult twisty section of the track. We'll just have a look at Henry. Has he got any damage? No, it doesn't look like he has. I haven't seen too many penalties from Henry. We know Carl's got a couple, so as it stands I think Carl would lose the position to Henry anyway. So if I was Carl, I would probably let Henry go past, because I think he's going to lose the position anyway, with 3 laps to go. Couple of seconds striking right. We've got yellows in sector 2 and sector 3. What has gone on? Fuzzer going very slowly. And he's completely lost his front wing. And now Dobby finds himself 2 seconds behind Fuzzer. Now the question is, will Fuzzer go into the pits? No, he's not. He's going to stay out with no front wing for the final 3 laps of this race. So that's something else to bear in mind as well. You've got Henry just on the back of Carl. Oh, a bit of a kiss. And we've got Dobby who's closed the gap right up on Fuzzer now. I would expect Dobby to make a move at some point here. Fuzzer's going to be really struggling. It's going to be like turning the bus around his corners in Monaco. Flips the grab nicely there, Dobby. Fuzzer clips the wall again. As it's foot to the floor time for Dobby. Revving the car nice and high. Trying to get as much out of that car as possible in every single gear. As we've got James has pulled out. He's now 25 seconds clear of Fuzzer. So this is a more than comprehensive victory for James, touch wood. As Fuzzer clips the inside wall again there. Raskas, as Dobby's had a bit of a bad exit. Okay, yeah. What has happened to Carl? Henry's got past Carl now. Yeah, Carl's really struggling with that front wing. And Drizzy finds himself about 6.5 seconds back. We know he's got a few penalties, so I don't think that's going to have too much of an impact on Carl. So we're going to go back to Dobby now, as this is full position with 1 and a bit laps to go, 1.5 laps to go around this amazing circuit in Monaco. Sunny Monaco, home to Lewis Hamilton, #blessed. Sean gets another penalty there for corner gutting, I would believe. Ooh. Poor chicane from Dobby there. That's going to really compromise him as James comes on to the final lap of the race. Fuzzer hits the wall in front of him. This is where he's going to really struggle. Again, poor exit from Dobby there. He's not carrying any damage. Maybe he's just trying slightly too hard. Wisket gets another penalty. Charlie White will be having an absolute field day here today. So Dobby, this is it, this is your chance. Can you get yourself up into P2? I think that's the highest place he's finished so far, and the only place he's finished is in P2 so far. I think he's done about 4 races on the trot, finishing in P2, and in Spain in the last race. Right, Carlsberry has a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. So, okay, Wisket's retired from the session, so Wisket is retired on the final lap. Yeah, he's DNF'd. So Carlsberry comes into the pits and retired from the session. Really unfortunate from Carl, as we are now going to find out exactly what's going on as James takes the win in Monaco. His 2nd win on the bounce and his 3rd so far in the championship. I think that might put him there or thereabouts at the top of the table. Fantastic drive from you, mate. Now, if Fuzzer can just hold it together in Raskas without too many problems. Yeah, he holds it together nicely. Yeah, Fuzzer's going to nurse the car home in 2nd place. So fantastic effort from him. And from Dobby as well, as we've got George Alice. We can't actually change cameras at the moment. The pub Serrani's just got past Tekken. And I believe we only have Shown left to finish. So we had a bit more action towards the end of that race there. We had 11 cars finish. So we had 6 retirements, which is probably to be expected in Monaco. And we only had 3 for a large proportion of the race. Yeah, as Shown comes home in P11, so just missing out on some points there. So we will see James take top step on the podium after a flawless performance. Got to be driver of the day for me. purely on the basis that yes, I know he won, and yes, it is always boring to pick the race winner, but to qualify pole and to get through the race unscathed, no big issues, no wing damages, nothing like that as well. Really, really solid drive from him there in the Force India. You lift that trophy high, mate, you have deserved it. Fuzzer in P2 and Dobby in P3. So 3 guys we'd probably expect to see towards the top of the podium, towards the top end of the points. Going into a rather nice selection of circuits now in Canada in the next race, and so on. So the final classifications today, we've got James took the win with no time penalties around Monaco. Really, really impressive. Actually, none of the top 3 got a penalty, so fantastic effort from James, Fuzzer and Dobby there. We've got George Alice in P4, who moved up 5 places. He had a really, really strong performance. We've got Henry in P5, who got 12 seconds off penalties. I did not see them happening, actually. Mr. Ice Cold Andy down in P6. Trizzy on his debut down in P7. Chris Logan, the Division 2 driver, got up to P8, so good effort there from Chris, starting 14th on the grid. Pubster Randy had a bit of an up and down race today, finished in P9, and Tekken, another Division 2 driver, finishing in the last points place. And the final remaining finisher was Shown. Unfortunate for Shown today, I think he had a bit of bad luck, but we know he's got the capabilities of driving quick. And then we had no finishes in Carl, Wiskett, Funky, NR, Pagani and Lennon. Now, that wraps up round 6 of TUF Division 1. We will be in Montreal on Thursday evening, which I encourage you all to join us. It's one of the best circuits on the calendar, and should prove for an interesting race. You never know how the weather's going to hold out in Montreal. Sorry, but thank you very much for joining us tonight. For those that could put up with my voice for that long, good solid race from most of the guys here today. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do all your bits and bobs you've got to do, and join us tomorrow evening. First of all, we've got a Division 2 race. I believe we're going to be redoing Baku due to a couple of issues on Monday evening, so please come and join us for that. It should prove to be an interesting one. Thank you very much, and we shall see you soon.